a previous film. You know, that's the problem a lot of prequels fall into, is they want to explain all the mystery of the previous film or the previous character.
Speaking of that, The Exorcist does that again years later with those shitty prequels, right? There's two of them.
Yeah, with the two shitty prequels. That's bad. I don't want to waste our time talking about shitty Exorcist movies. There's only one good Exorcist movie. I was looking to see what his first score was, his first official score. I think it's Two Mules for Sister Sarah, which is Clint Eastwood. It's a Clint Eastwood Western, directed by Don Siegel, who would direct Eastwood in a lot of other movies, most notably Dirty Harry. But I think that was his first official score. He was supposed to direct, or supposed to score, the Bible.
Uh-huh.
The movie The Bible that John Huston, which is weird, I can't believe John Huston made that movie. But he was supposed to score that, but I think he was under contract to RCA. Yeah, here it is. He was under contract to RCA, and they didn't give him permission to work on the score. So the work that he had done for that film got scrapped, and they went with someone else. But the first official movie is Two Mules for Sister Sarah. His first official Hollywood film, I should say, is Two Mules for Sister Sarah, which I believe was 1968. He had his famous collaborations with, some different directors. Do you know who his most famous almost collaboration was with? That never happened?
I think you got me on that one.
Stanley Kubrick.
Do you know what for?
Stanley Kubrick wanted him to score A Clockwork Orange.
Ooh.
And then later wanted him to do Barry Lyndon.
Really?
Yeah. I'll read this verbatim off IMDb. Stanley Kubrick was very fond of Morricone's work, particularly Once Upon a Time in the West, which is an awesome score too. If you get a chance to listen to that, I don't know if you've seen that movie.
I have, but have you? I remember asking you, and you had said that you hadn't seen it. Have you seen it since we talked about it?
Are we talking about Once Upon a Time in the West?
Yeah.
No, I never told you I haven't seen that movie, because I had seen that movie 20 years ago.
Huh. Well, because I remember specifically, I checked it out and I really liked it, and I asked you if you had seen it, and I remember you saying no, but maybe I'm thinking of something else, or maybe you misunderstood me or something. I don't know. Yeah,
maybe. But no, like, I had definitely seen that movie, maybe a decade before I even met you. Because the first time I ever saw that movie, I had seen pieces of it, but the first time I saw Once Upon a Time in the West was on a double feature with The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. And it was like, well, I want to go see The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly because that's one of my all-time favorite movies, and I've never seen Once Upon a Time in the West. So I wanted to go, and that was at the Ken probably in the early 2000s. It was like maybe 2000, 2001.
Oh, okay.
When they did that, they were playing like all the Sergio Leone dollar westerns, and then Once Upon a Time in the West. And that's how I saw that movie for the first time. So anyways, let me get back to the Stanley Kubrick thing. I'll verbatim off of IMDb. Says Stanley Kubrick was very fond of Morricone's work, particularly on Once Upon a Time in the West. The American director considered hiring him to write the score for A Clockwork Orange. However, when Sergio Leone, working on Duck You Sucker, which is also known as A Fistful of Dynamite, working on that at the time, was asked if the composer was available, Leone insisted that Morricone was needed, even though this wasn't true, which is kind of a dick move by Sergio Leone. Morricone regretted the missed opportunity to his dying day, and then Kubrick also briefly considered him for Barry Lyndon, but nothing ever became of that. So that would have been an incredible collaboration.
Yeah, I would like to hear A Clockwork Orange kind of reimagined by Ennio.
Yeah, that would be pretty amazing. But I mean, I don't know, like, the music in A Clockwork Orange is pretty iconic too. All the Beethoven and kind of like what he did with 2001, where he had an original score and then kind of scrapped it all and went with the existing classical pieces. But that, you're right, that would have been awesome. Or even just watch the movie with an alternate Morricone soundtrack and see. Think about all of the great director-composer duos.
Yeah.
I mean, Sergio Leone and Ennio Morricone have to be like top 3, right?
I would definitely say.
In my opinion, I figure, probably Bernard Herrmann's work with Alfred Hitchcock is pretty iconic. John Williams' work with Steven Spielberg, for sure, is iconic. And then, what other composer-director duos have made that big of an impact?
For the indie world, I would say Refn and Cliff Martinez.
Terrence Blanchard has scored most of Spike Lee's films.
Yeah, that's right.
And a handful of those are really good scores. I mean, 25th Hour is fantastic. Inside Man, I like the Inside Man score a lot.
I just rewatched that too. It's a good film. Inside
Man's fantastic, right?
Yeah.
And then, I mean, nowadays, like the Hans Zimmer, Christopher Nolan collaboration is pretty fruitful.
The blockbuster guys.
Yeah, but even they haven't really collaborated on more than just a handful. I mean, Hans Zimmer did the Batman scores, but the first 2 I think he did with James Newton Howard, so it wasn't totally a Hans Zimmer score.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's what, maybe 6 or 7.
How many Nolan films has Zimmer done?
Well, I count off of my hand here the 3 Batman movies, if you count his work with James Newton Howard on the first 2.
Inception.
He did Inception. He did Interstellar. He did Dunkirk. So 6.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm assuming he's doing the score for Tenet, if we ever see Tenet.
That's right now. Even though I'm assuming it'll be pushed back, it's supposed to come out in August, correct?
Yeah, mid-August is the last date that I saw, but with California getting shut down again currently, I would be very shocked if they try to rush that out in August. I think things are bad enough that they would just be better off pushing it down the line.
I had heard
maybe by the holidays, maybe even in the next year.
I had heard that they were trying to bank that to be like the big movie comeback for theaters.
Yeah, and that makes sense, but I mean, it's so uncertain right now when theaters are even going to open. I mean, that some have and then had to close down again. I know that some in Texas, maybe even Florida, were already open, and then those states got really badly hit, so they closed everything down, or at least I think are trying to close things down. It would be great to have some good product, some good content back when they do open, but because everything is so uncertain as to when they are going to reopen, I know that theaters can't have more than 25 to 30% capacity, so you're going to be selling, you're going to be showing a movie to a house that's 75% empty, which is not a great way to make money on a $200 million film.
What if you added several more showtimes? Could they make it up that way?
They probably could. I mean, when the theaters open again, it's not like there's 20 other brand new movies that are out, so they could ostensibly show it on, all the screens in the theater.
Yeah.
I don't know if people would really want to be doing 2-3 o'clock in the morning screenings just to get more showtimes in. So it's very uncertain right now as to how theaters are going to reopen, what's going to be out, when they are even going to be reopened. So I know that they want to have a draw to bring people back. I think a lot of people, myself included, are kind of weary about that.
Yeah.
Or leery, I should probably say leery about that, because is it really worth it, and is it really safe enough to go and do that? Even if, the next person in the theater is sitting half a dozen seats away from you, is it really worth it to go back? And I think some people are going to be pretty cautious about what they do and where they go for the time being, until there is some kind of a vaccine or a downturn in the infection rate. So it'll be interesting to see. I know that a lot of theaters were gearing up to open this month in July, and in California, that's not going to happen.
I think that's for the best. Well, thank you for coming on and doing this little segment. It was awesome.
You got any closing words on Morricone?
Well, if you guys are listening to this out there, take some time and dig up some of his iconic scores, or if you're unfamiliar with his work, check him out. Very interesting Italian composer, and may he rest in peace, maestro.
Yeah, man, what a loss for the music world and for the film world. We touched on it already. I just want to say it again. His score for the Sergio Leone westerns, especially starting with Fistful of Dollars,
yeah,
like really just revolutionized film scoring, and it really fit the vision of the West that Leone was going with.
Mm-hmm.
Because you think about everything that was kind of pre Sergio Leone westerns, especially on the American front, and it was all like the John Wayne shit, and everything was kind of nice and sanitized. And then Leone came along, and those films are like dirty and they're gritty. When I say dirty, I mean like people look like they've actually been living in the West.
Yeah, more authentic, right?
Yeah, they're covered in dirt and grime. You watch the John Wayne movies, and like their clothes are just pristine, like they just put them on. Have been riding through the desert or the brush for 2 weeks without a shower. But the Sergio Leone movies kind of changed that view of the American West and made it darker, made it grittier, made it grimier. It was violent.
Yeah, definitely.
And at the same time, kind of darkly comic. Because it was especially the good, the bad, and the ugly. I mean, definitely even the first act of A Fistful of Dollars has a couple of really great sequences and one-liners by Eastwood.
Mm-hmm.
But especially when the good, the bad, and the ugly came around, and you had the dynamic between Clint Eastwood and Eli Wallach, between The Man with No Name and Tuco. It's pretty funny at the same time. People are dying, and it's fairly violent, but there's some pretty funny lines in those movies. So Sergio Leone kind of revolutionized that, and Morricone's score revolutionized film scoring. And I think with the Morricone scores, I think a lot of that they changed kind of what you would view as a traditional film score. And I think a lot of that dates back to Morricone. So I will miss seeing his name up there on the screen on anything new. I'm a huge fan of his work, especially his work on the westerns. I mean, obviously Tarantino is, because he's used a lot of those pieces of music. But yeah, check out his music. The good, the bad, and the ugly score. Check out Once Upon a Time in the West. It's incredible as a movie and as a score. check out the